Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, coming to you live from Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. House of Representatives divided over whether the executive should be summoned to explain the $9.3 million arms deal. Supreme Court of Nigeria to decide dispute between the state and the federal government on the transfer of $1 billion from excess crude account. The Nigerian military denies statement that the Chibok girls have been freed. And US and allies launch first airstrikes against ISIS militants. A quick reminder to you now that all our top stories are on our website, channelstv.com, and on youtube.com/channelsweb. And do visit m.channelstv.com on your mobile device. You can also download the Channels TV app for Android, iOS and Windows phones from their respective stores. And we urge you to interact with the Channels Eyewitness feature on our Android, iOS and Windows 8 platforms. If you have pictures or videos to share with us, tap the application on your device, swipe to reveal the Eyewitness menu, and then follow the instructions. The Independent National Electoral Commission has been urged to consider adopting staggered elections for areas worst affected by insurgency in the northeastern part of the country. The Clean Foundation told a news conference in Abuja that it might be a challenge for the country to deploy 30,000 security troops during the elections for each state, as was the case in Shun and Ekiti states. The group recommended that the electoral body shelve the proposed 30,000 additional polling units until after the next general elections and focus more on preparations for the 2015 polls.
The terrorist group Boko Haram has bombed schools, churches and mosques, kidnapping women and children, and displaced close to 500,000 Nigerians in the northeast. In the last couple of weeks, there has been a debate over whether the Independent National Electoral Commission would hold elections in the troubled northeastern part of the country. Given its own assessment on security threats ahead of the 2015 elections, the Clean Foundation says Nigeria might consider adopting staggered elections, which basically splits the period for elections.
The critical stakeholders, are they analyzing it the way we are analyzing it? If they are saying, okay, no problem, we'll go ahead with 2015 general election as planned, what are the plans that are being put in place? Even one life is not worth to be lost as a result of going to the polls. This is the first time we're coming out to say, do you want to consider staggering these elections based on what we are seeing?
The staggered election depends upon the judiciary, and that is all. If the place is violent-free, non-violent, you don't need any staggered election in that very place. But where you think where you have the area boys and the endabas, you're supposed to make sure that you police that very place properly.
The group suggested that the electoral body shelve the controversial 30,000 additional polling units until after the next elections, and questioned the collection and distribution of the permanent voters card.
I don't see how people in the northeast will have 78% collection of the permanent voters card, given the security assessment that we have made. Okay? It doesn't also make sense to me that people in the southeast have only 49%, given the security assessment that we have made.
It has been pointed out clearly here that the success of the 2015 elections is hinged on security and its operational independence, while as campaigns intensifies, focus is more on the military now to see how it can tame the situation in the northeast, especially to enable a violence-free 2015 elections. Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
The Nigeria Labour Congress has asked the Nigerian Army to pardon the 12 soldiers sentenced to death by firing squad after finding them guilty of mutiny. The acting president of the Congress, Mr. Promise Adeosi, described the verdict as harsh, insensitive and unacceptable. He said there are issues such as unpaid allowances, poor kits and equipment for troops, leading to low morale, which should have justified circumstances in favour of the convicted. He adds that true justice should go beyond legalism to addressing the fundamental issues in any given situation. Mr. Adeosi wants the Nigerian Army authorities to convert the judgment on the 12 soldiers to a lighter sentence, as doing otherwise will not restore discipline, but rather sow seeds of insecurity and disloyalty among the soldiers.
We note the fact that, one, the military is a command and control institution that thrives on firm discipline. The punishment for mutiny on conviction, as spelled out in Section 52 of the Armed Forces Act, is to suffer death. The Nigerian Army is at war. The trial procedure may have been legally correct. However, we nevertheless find the conviction harsh, insensitive, and unacceptable.
Now, in the aftermath of the collapse of a building at the Synagogue Church of All Nations in Lagos, the Senate has directed its Committee on Lands and Survey to organize a public investigation of the incessant cases of building collapse in the country. The Senate also challenged the federal and state ministries of Land and Housing, the Standard Organization of Nigeria, Council for the Regulation of Engineering in Nigeria, and other regulatory agencies to ensure compliance with building rules and regulations. Our correspondent Linda Akigbe reports.
Friday, 12th September 2014. A guest house at the Synagogue Church of All Nations collapsed, killing scores of people, mostly South Africans. A week later, another church, Christ Chosen in Benin City, collapsed, killing 3 people. The church structures are not the only buildings collapsing in the country.
Further announcement.
This lawmaker says Nigeria has consistently witnessed cases of collapsed buildings in the last 2 years.
Further statistics indicate that 60% of structures in Nigeria were built without authorization, and that 85% of building materials in Nigeria are substandard.
Some lawmakers say there is a fundamental problem relating to what is happening in the country's building and construction industry.
Our steel industry and our cement industry, which are the 2 basic raw materials required in the quality of buildings that you can produce in building industry in our country, are today being haphazardly managed to the extent that the producers of these materials are the same ones that set the standards for them.
It is my strong opinion that until we provide a legal framework that addresses the issue of abuse of the engineering procedures and standards, we cannot go anywhere.
Another lawmaker, Senator Joshua Darie, says religious bodies have been flouting building policies and they must be held accountable for the collapse of structures.
These days, our sentiment becloud our judgment. And most of these people who flout these policies, you will agree with me, religious bodies. In our estates, you'll find mosques, churches, and there's no sanction in the name of we are serving God.
For the most recent cases of building collapse in the country, that of Synagogue Church in Lagos and Christ Chosen Church in Edo State, the governors of Lagos and Edo States have promised to investigate the circumstances which led to the collapse of the churches. But federal lawmakers have said they want the federal and state governments to stop playing lip service to solving the problem of building collapse in the country. And one of the solutions which they have put forward is for government and relevant agencies to sanction any organization or individual who flout building regulations. Linda Akibe, Channels Television News.
In the meantime, manufacturers of cement and blocks risk confiscation of their products if they do not comply with new regulations guiding their operations. Now, this is coming from the Standards Organization of Nigeria. Now, the Minister of State Trade and Investment, Mr. Sam Orotom, says starting from October the 1st, 2014, random checks will be conducted on ongoing projects across the country, while cement bags must now carry clear inscriptions of product quality and specification.
The dust may have settled, debris cleared up, but going up in the skies are questions arising from the collapse of a building owned by the Synagogue Church, which left scores dead and several injured. While various agencies, including those of Lagos State, are still investigating possible cause of the collapse, some housekeeping role is coming in for Sandcrete and allied product sector, and the stakeholders involved must hear this.
Today, we are carrying the best prize, number one, for building collapse in the world. Is it a good thing? Is it a good thing?
The concentration here is twofold: cement and blocks. In a matter of days, all cement in Nigeria must show manufacturer, best before use, strength of product, batch number, user application code, and more. In addition, blocks must conform to certain specifications regarding load carrying and non-load carrying capacity. The agency involved says this will help determine cause of incidences.
Only 5% of blocks met the specifications of NIS 587 of 2007. People naturally bought cement because they thought cement was cement. They didn't know there were different kinds of cement. Town planning and building control agencies must certify builders. Every builder in every state must be certified by the state government, so that when somebody wants to to build something and he brings something for approval, the approval must go with the material sources and the builder. Because you can have the right plan, you can do all the tests. If the wrong person builds for you, that structure may come down.
Nigerians must comply to standards, and when you do not comply, we're going to sanction you. That is what I'm saying precisely. If you don't comply, you'll be sanctioned.
While many may argue the timing for this intervention, it's also needless the loss of lives we experience owing to the deficiencies noticed. It's a learning curve, and everyone concerned should comply. Olu Phillips, Channels Television News.
When the news at 10 returns, the 2015 economic outlook. That's on Business News. Do join us again.